welcome. We've got the awkward slot just before lunchtime. I promise we're going to be quick, just to move us on. So kind of following on from them. In our product update, we're going to cover some notes in our roadmap, and also some really interesting stuff in terms of feature focus, what we've been working on this year, and the upcoming items that are going to be delivered over the next 12 months. So in terms of our roadmap, this is a big theme. As you have seen kind of throughout our conversations today, the website of the CRM is an overriding theme that we want to expand on in our product. And as you've seen in terms of what Ben has been bringing on from the Harrow team, and the real kind of like the lead that the Harrow website has taken in this customer-centric digital self-service. Trying to put calls to action, interactive elements in a place where a customer is most likely to find it at the point where they need it, and then take that and use the service in a way that is most cost effective to local authorities. What we want to do is really give everybody the tools to personalize their page content so that we can improve these customer success, customer experience measures. So in terms of our use cases, as well as the integral kind of my account experience that Ben was just showing, we're also seeing this as being something that we can benefit for members portals, personalization of content, so that if you've got counsellors, if they've got content which is specifically for counsellors, you can target that, limit that content just to the counsellors, to the members, based on their role in your organisation. But also intranets, where you have particular content, again, which is going to be enhanced based on their roles and responsibilities in your organisation, so they can see that particular information based on attributes that we can determine from their login. So, signals framework. I tried to put this into a much better diagram, but this is what we've ended up with. Because there are kind of two elements in this. We have our kind of developer enablement section, which is this signals framework. But the part that we're kind of like really going to be building on in the next 12 months is these low-code content building tools, which enable you to build up profiles, segments of your site visitors based on things that we can detect about them. A lot of them are going to be things that are related to their profile when they're logged in. But we're also looking at what we can do when they're not logged in. So maybe that is pages that they've hit on your website so that you can see a pattern of content that they're interested in. Maybe it is things that we can detect about them based on where their location is, or where the device, the type of device that they're using, so that we can then influence the content that we're seeing on the website. Usually at first, kind of like our first target is widgets, because so many of our home pages are kind of like the landing pages of the site, the front door. And we can see how targeting that content in a widget to a particular group of people will enable you to deliver those really rich and personalized experiences. If you know about kind of like the type of property that somebody is in, whether you've got details of kind of like about their card, then you can preemptively, you can use those to make their interaction with your website much less frustrating, and that ultimately will influence their feelings about you as an organisation and how likely they are to engage in a digital transaction in the future. Moving onwards, another theme, big theme, is accessibility. We're currently waiting for the WCAG 2.2 standards to be finalised. We're keeping an eye on them. Well, I say we, and James Jacobs is really helping kind of like in preparing us so that we are ready to incorporate those into our software. We are looking at what we need to do on the control center front, but also kind of like on the modern templates, how those are going to be updated to reflect the changing standards which are coming in with 2.2. So yeah, we are going to be putting into modern templates, which you may know as Photon, and we will be also looking at the control center interfaces and incorporating those standards and improvements in there. Speed. Andy's going to go through the roadmap.
It's working. Oh yeah, I can hear myself now. Okay, the bit that you probably all came here to see, the roadmaps. I'll go through the Connect one first. I think this is my first academy as the product owner for Connect. So you've probably already met me previously as the forms product owner, but it's my turn to do Connect this time. So at the moment, we are working on the essential stack updates, updating PHP versions and the Symfony version, which is a framework that Connect uses. So we're in the process of doing that now. We did our first initial release a couple of weeks ago for that, and we've got 2 or 3 more releases in the pipeline for that to bring the system up to date. As mentioned in the keynote, and as Helen will go into more detail, we've also need to implement an alternative for the Esri Locator Hub. So that's on our immediate development plans right now. I'm not going to steal my own thunder from my later slides, but we've got a new feature called Subscribe to Case that I'll go into more detail in the subsequent slides. And part of that includes updating to our service API so that you can pull in or you can change filter parameters via the API. So I don't know how many of you are experienced with the API. At the moment, you need to set up a filter in Connect and then pass that ID through the API, which makes it very static. We can't use dynamic filters. This is going to allow us to be able to override those filter parameters and make the API much more usable. Further down the line, and I'll start reaching out to customers to have conversations about it and to gather requirements, is single sign-on using SAML. We're hoping to sort of start those conversations in the next few months or so. And then further down the line, to support our international growth, is to be able to support addresses which aren't UPRN based. So that's what we've got coming up.
So we've got everybody on stage at the moment. I should have reorganised these slightly. Jadu Central, which is now, just to recap, that includes both our content management system and our forms management system. These are our next 4 planned releases. We've just put out Jadu Central 2, which is a really massive change in terms of our use of Symfony framework and our compatibility with PHP 8.1. We are working at the moment on PHP 8.2 compatibility and Rocky 9, which is a flavour of Linux. Don't worry about that too much for the moment. We've got this alternative for the Esri Locator Hub, which Helen will be talking about in a second. And we have these role-based access improvements around forms. For 2.2, we've got some improvements in the bottom line integration and theme configuration management. So if you're using our Photon template system, our modern templates, there's going to be some really awesome tools coming for Galaxies to allow you to implement theme configuration options, which can then be seen by the maintainers of the site so that they can amend those values in the control center outside of the design environment, but it will also offer us more flexibility when we come into design for your kind of like main websites, to again offering more tools, more flexibility for controls where you can then go in and manage the theme in slight ways. In terms of Central 3, we've got an update coming for our document editor, and that will be the version of our software in which we finally take out the classic form builder. So if you are currently using the classic form builder for any of your older forms, this will be the point at which you will need to have identified those forms and then decided what you're doing with the data and export it out the system. Because at the point where we apply the Central 3 patch, unfortunately, that will be the point at which any forms and any data relating to those old classic forms will be removed from the application. But we are bringing in, at that point, repeatable form variables, which is really cool. In Central 3.1, which is the last one we've got planned so far, although obviously lots of plans for the future, we are doing pre-filled form repeatables. So that is a feature that has been requested quite a lot, and smart mapping for Jadu Connect. So if you were here for the last Academy, that is an awesome tool in terms of usability, pulling in values out of Jadu Connect into our forms configuration screens so that you can easily kind of like link up those two systems to be collecting data without having to manually move between one system and the other, which is the way it is at the moment. We've also got some improvements planned for our session notices. So this is really for like us, accessibility and compliance, making sure that people aren't losing unsaved work, that people on the website, people in the control center are getting notifications before they are hitting time limits on these forms, whether that's a long application form on the website or a page, so like if you're creating a long document and you're writing lots of prose in the control center. And in terms of our feature focus, so just to move away from what will be coming, things that we've delivered already, we have our form link supplement. So looking again at those interactions on your website, starting to pull things out of a My Account page and into the various pages, the content pages on the website. If you're using both our content tools and our form tools, you can link those together now. So if you've got a document about, what have I got in here? Apply for an older person's bus pass. And that's the sort of item where you might have a form on your website. And you can provide an inline link in the content, and that's awesome. But it's great to be able to then reflect to people whether or not that's something they've previously interacted with. So if they're signed into your website, you can then show them by using the supplement, not only that there's a call to action if they've never interacted with that content before, but also if they have interacted with it, but maybe they've started the form, got lost, had to come back, can't find the form link, you can signal to them, this is where your incomplete form is, go, complete it. If they've already gone off and they've completed it, we can let them know that we're aware that this call to action here is the same thing that you've already submitted, and here are the details of when you submitted it, and maybe you want to go check on your answers. So that if there's any confusion about have I done the right action, we can give them some hints in line as to, yes, you've completed this particular action, and here is where you can go and find it. So that was shipped in Jadu Central 1.2.0. It is a feature at the moment only for the modern template customers. Though if there is anybody in our classic templates who is interested, please let me know so that we can consider expanding that out. In terms of, this is another great feature, shipped in Jadu Central 1.2, our form action failure notifications. But the power of forms really is in their ability to interact with your back office systems. And we're aware in terms of like some quite complex digital landscapes with different systems interacting with each other, it can be difficult to recognize when one part of that infrastructure has failed. And these for action failure notifications give you a timely kind of like notification that something is going wrong and needs somebody to go and look at it. So if there are actions which have failed, third-party systems which have not managed to complete, then it can send an email to named people on what has, sort of like failed on a particular form. It can also send daily digests. So you can set these up for multiple people dependent on their role on any particular form. So this is a per form configuration, not something that you've got to set up globally. There's also then additional reporting, which we've added in. And also there are now specific statuses where a form has been submitted, but with failures in some of the actions, so that you can go through and take any remedial action required on those particular submissions. And I'm going to hand over to Andy again to talk about Subscribe To, which is a big theme of work. Coming up.
Yep, thank you. So the Subscribe To case is something that we've been investigating since the sort of turn of the year. We've had a number of conversations with customers, really trying to figure out what it would be. And we started off with the problem. So you've got, I'll go back to potholes because that seems to be a theme for today. If you want to report a pothole, we've seen earlier that you can see on a map that it's already been reported. But that doesn't help me that somebody already reported it. I want to know when that's going to be fixed. Other use case, councillor might have a constituency member who wants to make a report about something, and that councillor is taking up that case on her behalf or their behalf, and they want to be kept informed on it. So we really are trying to get it so that we can inform you about changes to a report. Ultimately, the goal is to stop duplicate cases, because if something's already been reported, we don't want to have multiple reports of that. We just want a single report and allow people to subscribe onto it. So there's many different sort of approaches that we could have taken to this. And to be fair, most of the use cases are geolocation based, although not exclusively. So in the initial release, we're going to have new widgets, which will show a map and show reported cases on the map and allow people to subscribe to it. And when you're subscribed to it, you can receive notifications from it or about that particular case. So I've already kind of discussed some of the use cases that we've kind of identified for this. A lot of them are the reported style environmental use cases, highways, street lighting, fly tipping, those sort of things. A couple of more interesting ones that came up in our research was planning permission applications, school transport complaints. If a school bus is running late, you can subscribe onto it, or things like that. One idea that I did have during one of the earlier presentations was with bin collections. So if there's an accident which is blocking the collection lorry from getting down to the particular road, if we were to create a case sort of explaining that this road is blocked, you could subscribe onto that, and then notifications could be received to say that the accident or the blockage has been removed and the collection team will be round sort of tomorrow or whatever and update systems for that. I've already just kind of discussed a tool for councillors. So councillors in particular are very invested in these systems. They want to look after their constituents. And this will really help them be able to follow up on any cases that they need to. So I already discussed one path to subscribing, which will be some new widgets that we will be releasing. There'll also be new form actions to, so step back a bit. From the widget, you will be able to subscribe directly to the case without having to go for a form. The widget will allow you to sort of choose a case on the map and subscribe to it directly. But there may be situations where you actually want to capture a bit more information, and that's where we would be able to direct you into a form, and then the form would capture that information and also subscribe you to the case. And of course, you can subscribe directly from the Connect platform via a customer service agent. We'll be able to locate the case and add your subscriber details to it. On launch, there's going to be two methods of notifications. The SMS notification using gov.uk notify and email notifications. That'll be the two on launch. There has been other forms of notifications that have been suggested to us, which I won't say now, but if you've got any pressing needs for any other ones, please come and see me and tell me about them, and I will see if they match up with our other research. So at the moment, we are in the design phase of this. We spent sort of 3 to 4 months of requirement gathering, speaking to customers, spending an hour on the phone with them, going through the requirements, and we're using all of that information to form the design. And development should be starting hopefully soon. So that's where we are at the moment. And that's it for me. So I will pass over to Helen.
Hello, everyone. So I'm going to updates on things we've delivered with integrations recently and some of the upcoming work that we've got. In Connect, we've recently delivered click-to-call integration. So by default, all links to telephone numbers displayed in Connect, whether that's on the case or on the person record, are tel links. So if you click on them, say on a mobile phone, it will bring up the dialer with that number. With the click-to-call integration that we've added, we can actually override that for certain user roles. So if your telephony system supports it, we can have essentially a custom link that will launch that application with the number that needs to be called. So that can be paired with some existing API endpoints that we've got for searching for person records, specifically by telephone number would be most useful there. So you can do kind of call pop type functionality. So I believe Runnymede are going to talk about that a little bit later because they've also been using that recently. So just as an example here, on the case timeline, we've got a phone number and that's displayed as a link. So for example, in the contact centre, we're using Skype here as an example, but that could be switched out for another system. When the contact centre employee clicks on that link, that would launch Skype to make the call, versus someone that might be out in the field. When they click that link, it would just come up with their standard dialer on their mobile phone. So that's just all based on the user role assigned to that user in Jadu Connect. So another bit of work that we're doing recently is integration with Highland OnBase and WorkView. So WorkView is a module of OnBase. It's a low-code framework for developing business applications. So we did already have an integration with OnBase for the document management capabilities. So this builds on top of that. It adds homepage widgets, form actions, form components, so you can retrieve data from WorkView to display it to users and also create and update data in WorkView. So we do have Highland with us today, so if you've got any questions about OnBase, you can go and reach out to them or speak to us later on and we can facilitate those conversations. So onto the upcoming work. So any customers in the room that are using Esri Locate Hub currently for your address lookups, hopefully by now you're aware that it's been retired at the end of the year. So we have been working with Esri on a replacement integration, and that is using something called UK Data Loader that they develop with a minimum version of 7.1, which is to be released this month, we believe. If you are using Locate Hub and you're planning on continuing to use Esri for address lookups, please do reach out to Esri to make sure that you have got everything that you need at that email address. So it's addressing@esriuk.com. They'll be able to provide you with the minimum system requirements that you'll need for the service that we're integrating with as a replacement. So we're currently developing that integration. We will maintain support for the Locate Hub integration while we phase over into the new system, so you won't be left without your address lookups. Jadu Central, we're due to release in version 2.1, and that release is expected this quarter, and then shortly after we're released in Jadu Connect, so that'll be probably late this quarter, early next quarter. And finally, some upcoming work on Community Central. So for those of you that don't know, that's the Jadu platform combined with integrating connectors for Brightly's Confirm asset management system. So since we did demo it at the last Academy, since then we've done quite a few enhancements, including adding support for inquiry attributes, which quite a lot of people had asked for. And then we're going to be doing some more work on that. So we'll be incorporating feedback from the initial implementations that we've had. We'll be adding some usability enhancements, improved forms integration. So you'll be able to look up data from Confirm within your forms. We'll be enabling the subscribe to features within Community Central that Andy's just talked about. We'll also add support from an alternative mapping provider because currently it only supports Esri, but we want to widen that out a bit going forwards. And Sarah.
There's no rest for the wicked. Anyway, back to intranets. So alongside those personalization tools, which are going to be really powerful for intranets in terms of handling who can access what information, we have also been working on something really amazing with City of Edinburgh Council and CGI. I don't know how many people in the room currently have a standalone intranet using Jadu products, but the issue that City of Edinburgh Council encountered was around having frontline staff being able to access really important documentation about their employment on their intranet. So I'm sure they're not alone, but within their authority at the time, if you were not, say, sat at a particular workstation, working in like council offices, you weren't allocated a council email address, an Active Directory login, access to the intranet was withheld within their corporate network. And all of their employment documents were located on the intranet. So working with Jadu, we have produced Gateway, which is a way to expand that access out to all of your employees, including your frontline employees, wherever they are working, on site in cleansing roles, healthcare roles. What we want is to be able to offer that access for all employees, including those without the corporate email services. So with Gateway, you can create invites that go to their local email addresses to give them access. We respect GDPR in terms of how we handle their details, and we make sure that all that personal detail is treated within GDPR regulations, so we are logging those details for audit. The user invites can be created in bulk, so for ease of use, because I think City of Edinburgh had around 5,000 of these employees. Bulk operations were really required. They are something that we can manage in the application. You can check on the status of the invite, you can resend it, and all the login on the front end is behind 2FA. This is 2FA, which is with the end user in mind. It's going through their email address again. There's no need to be downloading additional apps onto their personal devices. We also have, so when you are starting to look at these Gateway options, what we don't want is to be hiding that for people located within your council network. So we whitelist the various locations, which we can guarantee have access, so that they get transparent access to the intranet. This included, in our current use cases, trade union members, members of the council, who were given privileged access outside of the internal local networks. So we have IP range management, we have a special login system on the front end, and we have a method of managing these invites to deliver this holistic approach to managing these email-less users and deliver them equivalent access to the intranet and support on their HR documentation. As we finish up, there was just, in terms of, I have a slide for it, but we have some really cool research projects going on at the moment around maintenance tools within the application. So things that we're looking at the moment that we'd really like, if you have any feedback to give, if you want to be involved, we're looking at image management tools. So how we manage images within the application, reporting on their usage, trying to identify old images, unused images, and places where large images are being used in the application. And we've got a stream of work looking at content reviews and content scheduling and how we can offer kind of like a global content review baseline with reporting included, splitting that out from our current scheduling options so that we have a dedicated review interface and offering tools, kind of like improved tools for webmasters, for approvers to show the content in a more easy to digest way when they come in and they start approving. So pulling things like metadata and category information within the context of a page so it's not hidden behind a click, and it makes it a more simple and streamlined workflow when you are going through and approving content. Andy has mentioned Subscribe To. I think that one has finished up recently, but if you're interested in what we've found, we'd be happy to talk with you about that. And Helen, oh, sorry? SAML is our next point for conversations around requirement gathering for Connect. We have just finished that within Central. So if you're interested and want to talk about setting that up, let us know. And then we also have the Esri Locator Hub. So we had an email flashed on screen. If you need to have that provided to you, let us know for those minimum versions from Esri. And we can also discuss kind of enablement if you are wanting to come and have a chat with us there.